Good morning. My name is Karen Seymour-Ells, and I serve as a trustee here at DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. We want to welcome everyone to our open and inclusive virtual community this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and we pledge to support one another as we explore these paths. We are so glad you were able to find us and join us for our live-streamed service today. Please check the church website at DuPageUUchurch.org for updates. If you search under DuPage UU Church on Facebook, you will find a number of ways to be in community with us as well. We'd like to invite you to join us today at noon for a forum to share information regarding our budget. Quick links to access that are found in the order of service that you may have been emailed today or on the website under Annual Meeting on the side. This forum will be repeated next week as well. The nominating committee is so happy to present a slate of candidates for the 2021 church year. The nominating committee is George Peck, Deb Conant, John Brubaker, Kristen Tang, and Jane Kwame. Anne Arellano has been nominated to serve as Vice President of Administration. I'm especially excited about this. Anne has been a member of the DuPage UU Church for 25 years, and she is a lifelong UU. She has raised her son Ben in our RE program and taught many classes during that time. Anne has also served on nominating the Committee on Ministries, Ministerial Search, Fellowship Marketing, and Adult RE. Anne wants you to know that she believes retirement rocks. We think Anne's retirement rocks as well. Diane Gelder has been nominated to serve as a trustee of Outreach. Diane joined DUUC in 2010. She served on auction committee, she was a member, relations committee member, and a bridge mentor. She has taught RE and has been a coming of age mentor. She has recently been an appointee on the Committee on Ministry. Welcome, Diane. Ingrid Marshall has been nominated to serve on the Community Outreach Committee. Ingrid has been a member of the church since 1988. She has served on adult religious education, small group ministry, and ministerial search team. She is currently the co-chair of the Pastoral Ministry Associates. Carl Nash has been nominated to serve on the Community Outreach Committee. He has been attending DUUC since 1982 and brought up 3 boys in our Sunday school program. He taught several classes throughout the years. He has been active with the Social Justice Committee. He has supported the Smile Project and participated in the PADS program. John Brubaker has been nominated to continue as a member of the nominating committee. He's been a member of our church for 34 years. He has served as an RE teacher, co-chair of the Youth RE Committee, and as clerk of the board. He currently helps out on ground maintenance. Thank you. He was appointed this year to fill an unexpired nominating committee position, and he has agreed to serve in that capacity. Jill Wallace has been nominated to serve on the nominating committee. Jill started attending DUUC in the fall of 2000. She has facilitated the high school youth group, served on Youth RE, organized coffee, thank you, served on the Board of Trustees for a year, and as board president for 3 years. Kelly Huggins has been nominated to serve on the nominating committee as well. Kelly has been a member of DuPage UU since 2011 with her husband, Jeremy. Most recently, Kelly served on the Board of Trustees as the Stewardship Pillar Trustee. She has chaired and co-chaired the Goods and Services Auction, the Annual Budget Drive Committee. She has served on denominational affairs, taught Youth RE, been a greeter, and participates in a women's covenant group. Russ Manthe has been nominated to continue serving on the Endowment Committee. Russ joined with his wife Carol in 2012. Russ has volunteered in many capacities at the church since that time, most consistently in his involvement with PADS. Russ wants to share that he has washed a lot of dishes in the DUUC kitchen. I am so grateful for Russ's help with that. Bill Kovacs has been nominated to continue serving on the Endowment Committee. He has been a member since 1990 and is married to Agnes. He is currently on the Winfield Planning and Zoning Commission and the Illinois Prairie Path Board. Tom Baldwin has been nominated to serve on the Endowment Committee. Tom has been a member of the church for 14 years and a UU for 45 years. He has served on the Board of Trustees at DUC and at his previous church, which is now called Shelter Rock in Long Island, New York. And a drum roll, please. I would like to announce the slate for our Ministerial Search Committee. We are so excited. This amazing group of people has agreed to help us find our next settled minister. Jane Gano, Kat Gelder, Dave Gorman, Bob Harris, Karen Hutt, Doug Coker-Cowan, and Sarah Lensink have all agreed to serve. We are so pleased to have them. They will get right down to work this summer with our with Reverend Walker. Thank you for your willingness to undertake this huge task on the part of the church. Our annual meeting, and this is the last one, I promise. Our annual meeting will be held June 7th at 11:30 a.m. It's going to be a little different this year. With the COVID-19 guidelines in place, your Board of Trustees has agreed that a remote Zoom format meeting will allow us to meet criteria for passage of business issues, as well as celebrate and honor the people and activities over the past year that has made this our beloved community. You can find details about the format, slates for elected positions, voting, pre-meeting budget review dates, and Zoom help on the church website. DuPage, uuchurch.org, /2020, 2020, I need my glasses, annual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. Good morning. Glad that you are all with us. Before I dive into the chalice lighting, I had a couple of things I wanted to share. After the service today, there will be a budget forum on Zoom, and I believe that that information has been distributed through the weekly connection, and may also be on our website. If you can't find the information and want to be at the budget forum, send me an email and I can send you the login info right before the meeting. And the second thing I wanted to talk about real quick is many of you may have heard that President Trump has asked all of the churches in the country to open up. I'm not going to go into how ridiculous that is, but I will say Our church has decided to link our decisions concerning health and safety and this pandemic to the state of Illinois' 5-phase plan. We won't open until the state's has declared that we're in phase 5, I believe. But as each phase happens, we will revisit where we're at and what we're doing. If you want more information about the 5-phase plan, Google it. There's a lot of information out there. Okay. Every week, we light our flaming chalice, honoring the worthiness of all, the spirit of life within each person. Today, let's light our chalice in memory of those who have died in service of something greater than themselves. Today, we shall honor the noble sacrifices of many ordinary people who did extraordinary things. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all. Our opening hymn is "This Is My Song." I invite you to join in speaking the words of our affirmation, which is now on your screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
It is time to gather. And this weekend is Memorial Day weekend. It's a time when we remember the men and women who lost their lives in war. Often people place flags where servicemen and women are remembered, like on gravestones and memorials. My story today is a picture book by Eve Bunting called The Wall. It's about the Vietnam Veterans Memorial located in Washington, D.C. On the long black wall are more than 58,000 names of those who served in the Vietnam War and gave their lives or were missing in action. This is the wall, my grandfather's wall. On it are the names of those killed in a war long ago. Where is Grandpa's name, I ask. We have to find it, Dad says. He and I have come a long way for this, and we walk slowly, searching. The wall is black and shiny as a mirror. In it, I can see Dad and me. I can see the bare trees behind us and the dark flying clouds. A man in a wheelchair stares at the names. He doesn't have legs. I'm looking, and he sees me looking and smiles. Hi, son. Hi. His hat is a soft, squashed green, and there are medals on it. His pant legs are folded back, and his shirt is a soldier's shirt. A woman as old as my grandma is hugging a man, old as my grandpa would be. They're both crying. Shh, he whispers. Shh. Flowers and other things have been laid against the wall. There are little flags, an old teddy bear, and letters weighted with some stones so they won't blow away. Someone has left a rose with a droopy head. Have you found Grandpa yet? I ask. No, Dad says. There are so many names. They are listed under the years when they were killed. I found 1967. That's when Grandpa dies. Dad runs his fingers along the rows of print, and I do too. The letters march side by side like rows of soldiers. They're nice and even. It's better printing than I can do. The wall is warm. Dad is searching and searching. Albert A. Jensen, Charles Bernatsky, George Munoz, he mutters. His fingers stop moving. Here he is. My grandpa, I ask. Dad nods. Your grandpa. His voice blurs. My dad. He was just my age when he was killed. Dad's rubbing the name, rubbing and rubbing as if he wants to wipe it away. Maybe he just wants to remember the way it feels. And he lifts me up so I can touch it too. And we've brought paper. Dad puts it over the letters and rubs on it with a pencil so that the paper goes dark and the letters show up white. You've got parts of other guys' name on it too, I tell him. Dad looks at the paper. Your grandpa won't mind. They were probably friends of his anyways, I say. Dad nods. Maybe so. A man and a boy walk past. Can we go to the river now, Grandpa? The boy asks. Yes, the man takes the boy by the hand, but button your jacket, it's cold. My dad stands very still with his head bent. A bunch of big girls in school uniforms come down the path. Their teacher is with them, and they're all carrying more of those little flags. Is this the wall for the dead soldiers, Miss Gerber? One of them asks in a loud voice. The names are the names of the dead, but the wall is for all of us, the teacher says. They make a lot of noise and ask a lot of questions, and all the time, Dad just stands there with his head bowed, and I stand beside him. The girls stick their flags in the dirt in front of the wall and leave, and then it's quiet again. Dad folds the paper that has Grandpa's name on it and puts it in his wallet. He slides out a picture of me, one of the yucky ones that they took in school. Mom made me wear a tie. Dad puts the picture on the grass below Grandpa's name. It blows away, and I get it and put it back and put a pile of little stones on top. My face smiles up at me from under the stones. Grandpa won't know who I am, I tell Dad. I think he will, Dad says. I move closer to him. It's sad here. He puts his hand on my shoulder. I know, but it's a place of honor. I'm proud that your grandfather's name is on this wall. I am too. I am. But I'd rather have my grandpa here, taking me to the river, telling me to button my jacket because it's too cold. I'd rather have him here.
A reading by Archibald MacLeish. The young dead soldiers do not speak. Nevertheless, they are heard in the still houses. Who has not heard them? They have a silence that speaks for them at night and when the clock counts. They say, "We were young. We have died. Remember us." They say, "We have done what we could, but until it is finished, it is not done." They say, "We have given our lives, but until it is finished, no one can know what our lives gave." They say, "Our deaths are not ours, they are yours. They will mean what you make them." They say, "Whether our lives and deaths were for peace and a new hope or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this." They say, "We leave you our deaths. Give them their meaning. Give them an end to the war and a true peace. Give them a victory that ends the war and a peace afterwards. Give them their meaning." We were young, they say. We have died. Remember us. We honor those who have served and those who continue to serve at home and abroad for peace and war. We honor those who have served and who have sacrificed their lives for us. In this spirit, the offering for the good of this church and its works will be taken and gratefully received.
When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Those words were by Wendell Berry. Recognizing that there are many joys and concerns in our congregation which we're not able to share aloud today, I would like to take just a moment of silence to support our friends and family in this community and beyond who have joys and sorrows that they are carrying. If you are one who has something you need to talk about, if you need somebody to talk to, I encourage you to reach out to our church's pastoral ministry associates. You can find them by emailing pmagroup@dupageUchurch.org, or you can go to the Joys and Concerns page on Facebook. Also, if you've been, well, a lot of us are homebound, but if you're homebound and need help, if it would be particularly helpful to have meals brought, we have a meal train going, and you can find information about that on our Facebook page as well. Memorial Day is more than just a 3-day weekend that marks the beginning of summer vacation. It is the day to remember and to offer our respects to those who died in service to our nation. When I think of those who have made great sacrifice for something greater than themselves, I imagine them symbolically as giants. And those giants made what others do, what we do, possible by virtue of us standing on their shoulders. At the same time, I'm only too aware that we are part of a faith community that has always been anti-war and promoters of peace. So one wonders, how can we memorialize the dead? Before we answer that question, here is a little bit of history. Officially, this holiday began as Decoration Day in 1868, as a time for remembering those soldiers who died in the Civil War. Although there had been many unofficial observances in cities around the country, this official observance was declared by General John Logan, Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, which was the veterans organization for Union soldiers and sailors. In 1967, in honor of the veterans who fought in World War I, Congress enacted a law that declared the last Monday in May to be Memorial Day. They further declared that this holiday was an observance of sacrifices made by any American soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that fought and died in war. In my research, I've learned that over 1 million Americans have died in wars since the American Revolution. Our Civil War had over 200,000 deaths, and World War II had almost 300,000 deaths. It's really hard to get my mind around those huge numbers. If today is a day to remember those who made sacrifices in the service of our nation, I question how we can possibly remember so many people. It's a staggering number. I will get to a critique of war before I'm done today, but first let's try to put a face on those numbers. I can imagine that most people here have had someone you have known, were related to, or otherwise had connection to, who died in a war at some point in our history. This person may have been somebody very close to you, or it may have been someone who was only a distant relative, but all the same, let's take a moment to remember those whose mission it was to defend us and died doing so. I invite you to think of those names. Usually I have everybody here and I invite everybody to speak the names aloud. You may do so if you want to from the comfort of your home. Who in your life are you remembering today? Being a veteran, as I am, I know many names that I could say right now, but I'm going to recount the sacrifice of only one. But because this service is broadcast, I'm only going to use his initials, MJ. There was a point in my career when I had risen up through the ranks and, like the others of my rank and station, were responsible for training the younger guys who came behind us. I was serving with a Marine battalion, although I was actually in the Navy. This was because the Marines do not have their own medical staff, so they have medical people from the Navy assigned to them. And MJ was a young man who had arrived there towards the end of my tour. He was very motivated to do well, eager to learn, and very proficient at his job. Although I was not alone in this responsibility, one of the things I did was train these guys, including MJ. As I mentioned, it was towards the end of my tour, because I'd been with this Marine battalion in 29 Palms for 3.5 years. I had received orders to go work at a medical clinic on a base in Japan, and I was looking forward to the transfer. Just a few weeks before I was due to fly across the Pacific, the events of September 11th, 2001 occurred. I fully expected my orders would be canceled and that I would be deployed with the battalion to Afghanistan. However, that's not what happened. I did transfer as ordered to Japan, and I was not to learn what happened to my old battalion until a few months later. I should tell you a little bit about what a hospital corpsman does with the Marines. There are usually around 40 of these medically trained sailors assigned to a Marine battalion. Each platoon will usually have one young man serving as a hospital corpsman who the Marines call Doc. It is Doc's job to patch up a Marine if he gets shot and drag him back to safety, among other things. Now, at this point in my career, again, I was senior enough in rank that I would have been stationed in headquarters if I had been deployed with the battalion. But I knew almost 40 young men, usually in their late teens and early 20s, whose job it was to go into the field with their platoons. I remember MJ today because it turns out that he was the first hospital corpsman to be killed in Afghanistan in the weeks after 9/11. Now remember, I said this was a smart guy, good at his job, eager to succeed, and dedicated to taking care of the people in his charge. He was not the type of person that I would think was reckless or one to take unnecessary risks. But he was one who would go to the front line where a Marine had been shot to try and help him. That was his job, and that made a target of him. It always falls to those who are left behind to remember those who have died. It falls to those who are left behind to ruminate about all the ways things happen, all the things we could have said or done had we had the chance. Yes, I've had many occasions to think upon the training that I provided MJ and many others. I've had occasion to think, did I do right by them? Did I teach them everything I possibly could? And yes, I do remember that it is true of every soldier and sailor and Marine that they are trained by many, many people who came before them. In the case of MJ, I was not the only one who trained him. At the same time, I can never forget seeing faces I had seen before, but now on TV. Seeing MJ's young wife holding their baby at the door of their base housing with reporters wanting a quote. I did not know her well enough to have ever seen her cry before, but I felt a sense of responsibility watching on the news as she tearfully told the reporters she just wanted them to leave her alone. Husbands and wives, parents and children, siblings and friends. These are the people who are left behind to pick up the pieces. The dead are gone. It is their people who do the crying. Although I realize that I'm likely to be preaching to the choir as I speak to you all about war, but I can't help thinking every single day that our various wars continue unabated. Haven't we had enough? Haven't we had enough of killing and enough of dying? Since the inception of this nation, over 1 million of our citizens have died in war. I said before that this is such a huge number, it is difficult to fathom. But these numbers have faces and names, and they had people who loved them. Haven't we had enough? It seems to me that Memorial Day is a day to remember not only our loved ones, but all heroes who have sacrificed their lives for others. Yes, I can critique the very concept of war. I can rail against the very reasons behind and perceived needs for violent action. But I cannot forget those 1 million Americans who are heroes, who are giants. It was not these people who died that started the war, or who gave the order that sent them into harm's way. It was someone else who gave those orders. It was someone else who started those wars. It's a sad truth that those who start wars very rarely die in them. As I think of heroes and giants worthy of our remembrance, I realize that there are many out there besides the military. I'd like to take a moment also to remember those who gave their lives not in war, but in the efforts to keep us safe. No one who was alive on 9/11 is likely to ever forget that day or forget where they were when it happened. And we all know where the New York City firefighters, police, and other emergency workers were on that day. Of the over 3,000 people who died on September 11th, 411 of them were rescuers, firefighters, police, EMTs, working to save others. These are heroes who I would never want to forget. There will be a time in the future, perhaps Memorial Day next year, when we will need to memorialize the doctors, nurses, and other heroes and giants who gave their lives helping people through the coronavirus pandemic. But that day is not yet today. I realize that on some days, it is a very ordinary person who takes extraordinary action to help other people. I'm sure that we can all cite stories of people we've heard of or seen, or maybe someone listening today may be such a person. But one story that particularly touches me, for obvious reasons, concerns people who were at the Tennessee Valley UU Church in Knoxville on July 7th, 2008. Unitarian Universalists pride ourselves on being liberal, loving people who believe that our society's great mission is to care for all people. And yet there are others in our society who have polar opposite political views from us, which is fine for as long as it's all about talking. When it comes to actions, violent actions, things change. I regret to see that change, that occurrence of violence growing in our society. There was a man in Knoxville who is said to have spent maybe too much time listening to conservative talk show hosts spewing lies about liberals. And he walked into that church in Knoxville during a play that was being performed by the children of the church. He brought with him a shotgun. You can imagine that this is the nightmare of every minister, DRE, and parent. When a church member and father realized what was happening, he rose to block the way of the gunman so that he could not get to the children. This man died as a result of his brave act. That man was a hero to everyone in that congregation and will always be remembered for the sacrifice he made to save others. Other members of the congregation were able to stop this person from committing further violence, and he was then arrested. One may well imagine this congregation will likely never be the same. But one wonderful thing that they have, that they can hold on to, is the loving memory of a hero, a veritable giant in their midst. I never knew this man, but I admire him, a very ordinary man who took extraordinary action. In my mind, this is the truest definition of a hero, an ordinary person taking extraordinary action, saving others without regard to themselves. At this point, one of you may be thinking, my God, this guy is a downer. One thing I learned in my research about Memorial Day was that it was once a very somber observance. It was a day when people went to cemeteries and spent time remembering people that sacrificed their lives. This was not always a day for barbecues and summer vacations. And so today I try to hold in tension two things: a need to remind us all of the giants who once walked among us, heroes of great sacrifice, and a need to help us gain something uplifting and edifying from our Sunday services. So let me end with this message. When we remember our heroes, remember not just that they died. Let us remember why and how. That young corpsman that I once knew, MJ, he was attempting to save another person who didn't want to be in that place any more than he did. They were ordered to be there, and MJ was working to save the life of another person. And on 9/11, those firefighters, those policemen, all of those people, they were working to rescue other people in distress. And the father in Knoxville stood firm and tall as a physical barrier between his church's children and an angry, misguided person. There are people in your own lives, I'm sure, who have done just as extraordinary things as the people I've talked about today. Please remember them. Please remember what they stood for. Please remember why they did what they did. Remember why that ordinary person did an extraordinary thing. They were giants who have raised us up to their shoulders, making possible what we do in this life, now and in the future. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all. Our closing hymn is Nothing But Peace Is Enough.
This is a hymn we haven't sung before, so Vera's going to play it through once, and then we will sing it, and then you are welcome to join when you feel comfortable doing so. It's very short.
Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me.
When an ordinary person does something quite extraordinary, let us always remember. When some ordinary, special, lovely person offers grace to us, let's accept it humbly. Grace is something we do not ask for, but comes upon us unbidden and unexpected. And when we have grace to lend another, may we always do so with humility and honor. When an ordinary person does something quite extraordinary, let us always remember. Let us never forget the heroes and giants, all those who have lifted us up. Blessed be.